Hey there, all you cats and kittens, or whatever that crazy lady said on Tiger King. Scott back with you talking about failure filmmaking. This week's edition, in fact, there's going to be two kind of back to back. This is a two-part series on NAB Express. NAB Express is the virtual leg of the NAB, National Association of Broadcasters show. That trade show got canceled back in April due to COVID, understandably. Now they're going to try to do it as a virtual experience here in May, all within the next week. And in fact, Wednesday, May 13th is day one. So I've got two videos coming at you. Part one is all about Final Cut Pro. The question I have is, will Apple release Final Cut Pro 10.5 as part of NAB Express? Will they or won't they? I don't know. But I got on a call with my buddy Nick Alexander. You guys know him by now. He's the director of the Indie Doc Illegal. He's up in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. And he and I got down to business on when will Final Cut Pro be updated, hopefully this coming week, and what are we going to see? So with NAB Express coming up, I thought this would be a great time to listen to that interview. Here you go.
Okay, all right. We'll finish with this topic because it's an itching topic that we both attended the Creative Summit.
Yeah,
that's how we met each other, got acquainted with each other's projects and our work, and of course we can't speak on necessarily everything that was said, but obviously there hasn't been a significant software update in some time. And there's a lot of discussion on what that is and when it will come, and yeah. So I'm curious to hear from you, Scott, since we both love Final Cut, and I know some other colleagues of ours, are making predictions, and also.
you talking about your boy? Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Your boy. Older dude. We met him.
Richard Taylor, my friend.
Richard Taylor. Your friend.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it, Scott. I mean, we talked about this at the Creative Summit, but I think at the end of the day, looking back, I was disappointed. I was rather disappointed. I was disappointed in the fact that there wasn't something significant, new and fresh, because that was the story that had been told to me for years, and so, we reached this climactic moment, and then there's just silence. So, that happened, and we can talk about it, but, that's just one moment in the span of the whole, the software. And neither of us really know what's happening right now. And just from Final Cut to 10, there's this huge jump, and it just happened. I mean, it was at the NAB years ago. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? What do you think about all this? And as an editor yourself?
Well, real quickly, just to recap, I agree with you totally. I had a really good time at Summit, hanging out with people like you and others, and meeting people and going to the panels. And it was this weird anticlimax. Yeah. And that's just how I'll describe it, without getting into too much detail. It was weird to be so excited about something and then realize that essentially was not happening. So that's how I would describe that. In terms of what I expect, what I think is coming, NAB obviously got canceled, but they're doing their virtual thing May 20th, I think it is, or thereabouts. It's in mid to late May. I think that Apple is still going. I think Apple was going to release something at NAB or around NAB, and I think because of their long relationship with NAB, I think they're, out of respect, they're holding on it until that virtual NAB in late May. So I still think that's when it's going to come. I think it was going to come at NAB in April until it got canceled. And I think it's going to be a big update, just like Richard Taylor thinks it's going to be a big update. Having said that, I think if that virtual NAB comes and goes and there's no announcement, that's going to be really interesting to me. And if that is the case, I have a new theory about what is happening. You heard it here. Nobody cares what I have to say. But if I think that if they still don't make an announcement at that point, it makes me wonder if Apple is in talks to buy another company like Blackmagic Design. Like, I'm not saying it's Blackmagic, but like, it makes me wonder if they've got something in the pipeline that is based on a purchase, and perhaps the closing of that purchase has taken longer, especially with COVID-19. But I think Apple really wants to be a camera maker. They already are. I mean, the iPhone 11 Pro is so good, but would they potentially buy a company like Blackmagic Design to get all the goodies that Blackmagic already has, including Resolve, including code base for Resolve? So that's my theory. If nothing happens after the virtual NAB, is there some sort of transaction afoot that has an effect on Final Cut Pro? Total speculation.
Well, I think that's what we can only do at this point, especially after not seeing any significant update in the fall. Personally, I'll speculate a little bit. Just recently they released the 2020 iPads or iPad Pro, and also that keyboard and the Magic Keyboard, I think it is.
Yep.
And my wife, she for her birthday is this month, and so celebrating her Corona birthday, she really likes to use my iPad. I have the iPad, the 2018 iPad Pro, and I've enjoyed it, but I can definitely talk to you all day about how it just lacks that, like the productivity is just lacking. Internally it's an amazing.
Yeah, it's a great consumption device.
Yeah, it's great for watching Netflix, but as far as like being productive, I really haven't seen great cases. Now, yesterday, I updated the iPad. I connected my wireless keyboard and my mouse. I went and sat outside in the sun, and suddenly the fact, just because I could use a keyboard, an actual keyboard, I felt 3 times more productive. Now, I was just answering emails and, browsing Safari, but what I realized is, I suddenly felt capable of doing something more. Now, up till this time, Final Cut has been, isolated on the Mac, and my speculation, which again, it may or may not happen, probably won't, but I really do believe that with the release of this new keyboard and now the iPad Pro, maybe like a little bit more pro, maybe that's just an indicator that some form, maybe not the full-fledged version of Final Cut, but perhaps some form of it might be coming to iPad OS. That's, of course, pure speculation, but I would love to see that. Maybe that's not like, the update for Final Cut, but they already have the what's it called, the screen sharing or AirPlay.
The Sidecar.
Sidecar, and like I used it once or twice, and then I was like, I got.
If I traveled a lot and had to do like a lot of travel production and editing, I would use Sidecar all the time to be a second monitor. But I don't do a ton of that. When I do travel, it's usually just to shoot, and then I come home.
Right. So, who knows? WWDC is coming up. About the same time as NAB, which makes me say, all right, so that aligns pretty well. I mean, NAB and and WWDC are usually a month or two apart anyway. But yeah, I think something significant is coming, and we will probably be a little surprised. I think just like with going from 7 to X, there was definitely a lot of confusion and maybe some frustration. There might be some of that this time, which is, I think, more exciting than not, because for the
So I'll give you one more theory that I have, and I used to joke when I said this to people. Something I started thinking about 6 months ago, right after Summit, actually.
yeah.
I think there's a chance, tying this all back to our B-Raw conversation. I still think there's a chance that what ProRes RAW becomes in the new version is a format that you can transcode other RAW formats to, and it retains almost all the information the other RAW format had. So it becomes less of an acquisition. Like, I think Apple wanted it to be an acquisition format, right? They probably still do. But is it more useful as a format that you could convert something to? And just like ProRes, it's like, oh, you shot that in MP4, convert it to ProRes. It's easier to work with. Like, can they connect the code dots on all that? And I think I used to think it was like a silly theory, and now I kind of wonder, gosh, I mean, could they do that? Because that would be cool. You could shoot in Sony's RAW, Canon's RAW, B-Raw, even Red RAW to a degree, and then transcode it. And maybe it doesn't retain everything, but it retains, 90% of the information in those RAW formats. For somebody like me, I'd be like, yes, give me that, So I don't know. That's my theory on what could be a big function that comes to reality.
Well, I suppose we'll find out in about a month's time from now. Which I now, since we're living in COVID-19, it's definitely I'll definitely be counting down the days, as there's very it seems like there's a few things to be excited about. But definitely looking forward to seeing what Apple rolls out. But regardless, you know what? It's like, I love the editing workflow that I have with Final Cut. I just finished my first documentary film, edited in Final Cut, and I would not have done it any other way, with or without a significant update last year or this year. Of course, there's functionality that I wish would be a part of Final Cut, but again, I'm not behind the curtain. I'm not, on the back end. And so I totally understand that argument as well. Yeah.
All right, so what does this all mean? Well, what do we know? Nick and I are not experts. We are big Final Cut Pro users, and we all have things that we'd like to see. And as our vlogging brethren, Richard Taylor, will tell you, it's been a long time since this software had a meaningful update. So we're all hoping that NAB Express this week would be a logical time for Apple to drop an update. Who knows, though? Who knows how COVID-19 has affected the development cycle? We just don't know. But I hope you enjoyed that interview, all about Final Cut Pro, and time will tell. The clock is ticking, and we'll find out soon. Have a good day.